So I was making some biting remarks that, yes, Mahler is without a doubt a grifter, and I'll probably be putting this up for a while where I will probably change the channel name something closer to a variation of the mole hair and or the EFAP, mainly for parody reasons, but I'm like, yeah, why not? I mean, the whole reason Mahler calls himself Mahler is to gain traction from Darth Maul, even though for years and years he said, guys, them prequels are bad. They're the worst things of all times. But now it's like, them prequels are, George Lucas and the Vision, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But let us get to the critical drinker. And one of his most recent persistent critics is the Birdman. And although I do like the Birdman, and for the most part I do agree with him, and he proves his case for the most part, would I label him a grifter? Well, reluctantly, I would have to say yes, since he's doing what a lot of grifters do. In fact, he does what he accuses the drinker of misleading his audience and withholding vital pieces of information and trying to make the drinker worse than he is. Now, the basic case he makes against the drinker is true. Is he a raging homophobe, neo-Nazi racist, fascist moron, and he's outright incompetent? Yes. I think he makes his case well enough. In fact, ironically, what we're going to review is a defense of the drinker, and he confirms most of what the Birdman says is true. However, the Birdman did get a few things wrong, and the problem is he isn't really correcting his mistakes. He's just like, okay, yeah, maybe that was a little misleading, or yeah, I didn't really talk about that, but you know, he's an alt-right racist, so F him. And I get it, the Birdman is black, and the drinker takes unusual attention to demonize black people, so yeah, it's it is hard to defend the drinker. So let's begin with this person's beginning preamble where he pretends to be neutral, but as you're going to see, this is a fraud.
So, I would like to start by saying that I don't agree with 100% of what Critical Drinker has to say. For example, I heavily disagree with his Blade Runner 2049 review, a film that I love immensely and one that I return to quite often. Not only would I disagree with his conclusion, but around several statements he makes through the course of his review. Disagreements over film and TV are natural. I've yet to find a critic/YouTuber that I 100% agree with. Well, I have actually, it's me. However, the claims we will discuss today go beyond that. We're not talking about a singular bad review or even faulty analysis. The video in question poses the critical drinker as a poor, idiotic liar propagandist who is interested more in siphoning people to his brand.
Well, that sounds all well, nice and good, but I don't agree with Drinker on everything because he didn't like Blade Runner 2049 and I did. Wow, that is very deep and utterly irrelevant. Now, I'm going to shock people. I actually agree with the drinker. I was not very impressed with Blade Runner 2049. I wasn't impressed with Dune Part 2. I think Denis Villeneuve is a great director. I've looked at his films in theater for the most part. I saw Prisoners, which I thought was excellent. I saw also Sicario, also very excellent. And I saw Dune Part 1. All those were excellent films. 9 out of 10, no doubt about it. But his other work, I think, is not that good. He is a very powerful director, but not everything he does is golden. Okay, so there we go. I actually agree with Drinker. Sometimes Denis Villeneuve can be not good. Right. Now, this person says, I don't agree with Drinker 100%. So, what exactly is the thesis? One, that Birdman is a liar, a moron, and a grifter. Drinker, though, does make mistakes, but guys, we can trust Drinker. I believes in him. He's actually good, guys. Okay, why do you say this? Why do you think this? And at the very end, he just literally negates and contradicts what he just said at the very beginning. Because the reason we can trust Drinker is because, guys, he's one of us. I trust him. He is one of us.
How much you want to tackle these issues, but just because someone falls on the other side of this debate does not make them a dishonest reviewer. One can find plenty of critics and YouTubers who fall on the opposite side of Drinker and will themselves often bring up their own politics or simply give a good review for quote-unquote representation purposes. Sometimes employing similar styles of analysis like we saw with the film cast. Oftentimes, these individuals are not labeled as grifters, because at the end of the day, it's not actually about the mode of analysis that the drinker employs. It's simply that he goes against the message.
So the basic gist is, guys, Drinker's fighting the message. He's a brave guy. He's fighting those evil trans gay black communists, binary bisexuals who are destroying everything in my Star Wars. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, there are two major problems with this video essay. If you double check a lot of what this guy is saying and asserting, he's wrong. He's actually demonstrably wrong. And the Birdman is correct for the most part. Now, he did make one, and I do mean only one solid point throughout this entire essay. And I found it astonishing. This guy actually did a very good job because he collected a lot of the worst things that Drinker did, so he saves you a lot of time. But I'm going to add one thing, which he gets factually completely wrong, and he magically doesn't know this because he's an idiot. Let's get to the one part Birdman was definitely grifting, which is with the Batman, where he basically was doing worst case analysis with Drinker, and he was definitely misleading his audience. So the big controversy with the Batman, and by the way, I actually go further than Drinker. I do think this is a major problem, the so-called race swap with Jim Gordon. Now, can you do it? Yes. Should you do it? I think you have to do it very carefully if you're going to do it. So I think The Batman is a great film. So I don't think it was that good a performance by Jeffrey Wright, but it was fine. Um, should he have done it? Probably not. But still, you can sort of be on either side. Now, both Drinker and Birdman are lying to you. I'm not going to lie to you. The canon is pretty clear. For the most part, Jim Gordon, straight heterosexual male with a daughter. That has been the canon for decades and decades and decades. So the canon is pretty clear. Now, both sides, Drinker and Birdman, were lying about the Batman. So we'll get to the one point.
Not calling for diversity purely amongst the villains. If this was the case, he would advocate that the race swap characters be made white and then all the villains need to be diverse. However, the drinker actually does not seem to mind.
As for race swapping certain characters, yes, that does indeed happen here, but I should probably point out that Billy D. Williams was playing Harvey Dent way back in 1989, and nobody seemed to give a shit about that.
A little convenient to leave out, no? It would seem that he is fine with a diverse cast of heroes and villains. This clip.
Birdman does acknowledge that, yes, Drinker did say those things, that he was fine with what they did with Batman. I'm fine with what they did with Tim Burton's Batman. So, no major disagreement. If he wants Billy D. Williams to be a black Two-Face, yeah, I'm here for it. Unfortunately, we don't have too much with Billy D. Williams and Batman Returns. Apparently, they were going to do something for the sequel, right? For the third Burton version, but Burton decided to leave. I will say, because this guy cannot do any research, Mr. Cal here didn't seem to notice or realize that, yeah, and by the way, I was fooled too. So this is the problem. You can get fooled. I saw Batman Forever in theaters. I loved it. It is a great film. It is a very good film. However, it is pretty racist because the original intention of Tim Burton was to make Robin black. And again, within his own mythology, there's no problem because this is an adaptation. So he is free to change the mythology. Apparently, they were planning some pretty wild, great things, but they went another direction. But Joel Schumacher was very racist, and Marlon Wayans confirmed this. They basically just paid him off, saying because he was under contract. He was contracted to be Robin, but they're like, okay, we're going to do something else. So here's your money. We're going to make a different Robin. It's like, okay, that's cool. And they went with a white Robin. Now, that's a good idea if Schumacher cared about the canon in the comics, but he didn't. So we're just going to reverse a Tim Burton decision because, racism. So there we go. So the Batman franchise is a little mixed with its creators, but, there we go. Okay, so Birdman acknowledges this, but then he diminishes what Drinker conceded.
This clip was right after the one Birdman played.
If all of this wasn't baffling enough, he himself states this film isn't about race.
And to be fair, Kravitz and Jeffrey Wright both do a great job with the roles they're given, and apart from one poorly judged line from Catwoman right at the end, race never really comes into the picture. So I guess what I'm saying here is that while the movie takes a few little stabs at modern day social issues, it really never dominates the narrative.
Does he even hear himself?
But the drinker goes on to say that this is not an issue for him. I'm confused as to why this is even in the video. People often do this.
With what Birdman is saying. For one thing, Drinker will praise sometimes black performers. Now, he doesn't do it for the right reason, but he does do it. For instance, with Deadpool and Wolverine, he actually praised Blade coming in. Right? Remember at that time, we didn't know the cameos. So he was like, oh, Blade. The Wesley Snipes version showed up, and he liked it. Now, I can only guess the obvious, that he preferred the Snipes version over perhaps the Mahershala Ali version, which may never really happen, even though canonically, I don't like it, and you may not like it. He is technically officially Blade due to the Eternals. Okay, well, there you go. So, Drinker is not always automatically racist. That's correct. However, you'd have to be pretty stupid not to notice when he is clearly being racist, and racist for no reason. Now, I don't like the Birdman's defense. I really don't. I think he was begging the question. So there's this notorious tweet where, for whatever reason, Drinker got really angry that they cast a black woman in the Minecraft movie. Why was this a problem? I don't know. Drinker's like, oh, they've got a black woman. I think we know what we're doing here now.
I didn't account for was the insane mental gymnastics people would perform in order to deny that his post was racist in nature. So here's a tweet from a different person. If you're unfamiliar, this person is Nick Fuentes, a proud white supremacist. Sounds contradictory, I know, what with being a Mexican and having a name like Fuentes while being a white supremacist, but no one ever said white supremacists were intelligent. The point is, doesn't this tweet seem to be placing emphasis on a specific character in the Minecraft movie? I mean, now that I've told you this person is a white supremacist, it's obvious what his issue is, isn't it? So I'll ask again. What do you honestly think Will's problem with this image was? Do you really believe he's this upset about Jason Momoa's?
Well, no, I think the Birdman was correct. He suspected a very racist intent behind the tweet. And by the way, because again, Cal here will do no research. But if you dig into this, the drinker several times likes, comments, and even boosts the tweets of I am not joking with you, someone on Twitter called Aryan. That's their name, Aryan. Now, this was even more embarrassing than the other tweet, where, by the way, this turned out to be wrong. But for Indiana Jones, because Drinker cannot help being a bigot, he assumed that in the last Indiana Jones films, which I agree, I didn't like the female protagonist they had. What's her name? The person who's doing the Tomb Raider, the over the top moronic feminist. She played this solo robot, which was also stupid and annoying. But anyway, the guesswork was she would replace Indiana Jones because, she's a woman. That never happened. I saw the film in theaters. She was pretty annoying and stupid. Didn't do much for the film, but she was okay. But that definitely didn't happen. A lot of what people guessed about the film did not happen. But Drinker just assumed this neo-Nazi, and by the way, I've followed this person's tweets. They are very much a neo-Nazi. Oh, once again, they're going to destroy Indiana Jones. I am so sure of it. Well, that turned out to be totally untrue. But just for reasons, Drinker supported this racist, just to support the racist conspiracy theories. We are getting it wrong, guys. He's not a racist. He's just helping racists. He's putting out racist propaganda. He's lying. But Birdman is wrong. Like, the Drinker is not always racist towards black people. He is willing to tolerate the occasional tough black male action noir protagonist. He's even willing to allow women of color on to agree with him. So, he's a moderate racist. Probably Rags, Mahler, Nerdrotics, Drinker stupidity. I'm just going to end with Drinker blatantly acknowledging he is beyond stupid regarding a lot of media.
There's a reason people like in the West are starting to draw more and more towards Korean or Japanese filmmaking. It's precisely because it's a bit different from what we get.
Mm.
And that's a good
What?
thing.
Yeah, what is the most recent Japanese film or at least entertainment that you enjoyed so far? If you remember
Uh,
any.
what am I thinking of? See, a lot of them would be older ones, like Old Boy, for example.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that one. I know it's not Japanese, but yeah, probably stuff like that. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I really like that. And it's like Chinese, I think. But yeah, like it's
And yes, by the way, this person tried to defend Drinker specifically on this point, saying, guys, he doesn't have to know Asian media. He's Drinker. He never said, yes, he did. He did put himself out there as some kind of expert on Chinese, Korean, Japanese cinema, and he's not. So this is a very dishonest video. But still, some points were made here that the Birdman was also being dishonest. So there we go. I have hope for the Birdman. I hope he corrects a lot of these biases and apologizes for getting a few things wrong. I don't think he will. It seems he's very locked into his echo chamber. He's probably going to consign me to the alt-right for putting out this video, but it is what it is. It is what it is. That's the media environment. You either agree 100% with someone or you're condemned as the devil. But there we go. So the Drinker is a racist, but he's a moderate racist. Not good, but it is better than Nerdrotics and Mauler and yes, Synthetic Man. He's still a really bad guy, but not as bad as his friends. That's just being honest.
The underlying logic being how they locomote, and the stupidest person you know will say, did you just compare a fish to an Olympian? And this is exactly why analogies are on IQ tests. But I'm willing to be charitable to Will and suggest it's the former, that he knows the point that's being made but is misrepresenting it to fit the narrative he's trying to push. I mean, the alternative is to suggest he's low